Assalamualaikum everyone, hope you all are doing good. Welcome to the second part of the tutorial of how to implement a basic Java calculator with GUI. So without any further delay, let's begin. So first let's go to the Eclipse IDE. So in the last lecture, we designed this calculator Java project. We have two packages, controller and the view. Let's first take a look in the controller and complete the controller part. So in the controller, we actually had all the basic logic of our whole calculator. As we had two numbers, and then we have constructors, setters, and getters, and then all the logical functions such as addition, subtraction, multiplication, and the division. So to complete the calculator, we need to have a data member, character, or PT for the operation, like whether our user has selected plus, minus, multiply, or division. So OPT, and we are going to have its setters and getters right here. So I'm going to say source generate setters and getters. So generate, and I have my setters and getter of the OPT. Now we need to just add one single function. Now we are going to add one simple function, public string calculate. This particular function is simply going to interpret the data members and then do the call the relevant function and return the value. So if this dot get opt is double equals to like plus operation, then this will return this dot addition with concatenation because it's just string returning function. Similarly, else if this dot get opt is double equals to like minus, then return this dot subtraction and plus for the concatenation, else if this dot gets opt. You can even you can do simple this dot opt because we are inside the class, so is multiplication, then return this dot multiplication, of course with the concatenation, and else we know it will be division, so we'll simply be returning this dot division without any concatenation because the division function is already returning us a string. So after doing this, we have our controller completely ready for the communication with the GUI class of the calculator. So let's go to the calculator GUI and let's first take a look at how what we did in the last lecture. So in the last lecture, we designed the whole GUI of our calculator. We had all the digit buttons from 0 to 9, the operation buttons, and then the automated clear button, etc. So we are going to code them one by one. But first, let's set up the communication between this view class and this controller class. So go to the source. And right where your class is starting and having all the data members, I'm going to define another data member, declare actually, private calculator logic, and I'm going to name it obj calc is equals to new calculator logic. So I have actually declared and initialized an obj calculator of type calculator logic, which was this controller class, and have initialized it to with the default constructor. Okay, so now I'm going to communicate with this my logical class from this view class using this object. So let's first go to the design and execute the application. So the very first thing that we need to do is when my user clicks on any button, the digit should appear right here in the text field. So let's first do this for one single button, that is 7. So right click on 7 and go to the event handler, add an event handler mouse click. The event handler states that whenever my user clicks on but btn 7, this is the code that will execute. So when my user clicks on button 7, I want my text field text to set to the 7, right? I want my text field text to be 7. So let's see if it works. So 7, yes, it works. But if I click again, it should show me 77, but it's not, because according to my code, I have only written one thing, that is the text should set to the 7. So we need to do something else as first. So we'll do this. I will add a simple statement. If my txt, so we need to do the concatenation. So I need to do a very simple thing, that is, do not set the text only to the 7, but instead set the text to whatever the current text is plus 7. So let's see if it works. 7, 7, 7, and so on. It's working, right? Okay, we need to do this same thing for all the other buttons. So I'm going to copy this line of code, go to my design, and add an event handler for every other number, and then add the same line of code. And the last one is 0. So 0 and right here. So we are done with all of our buttons. So let's see if it's working. 7, 8, 5, 2, 1, 4, and yes, it's working. Okay, the next step is when I click on AC button, this screen should clear itself. So it's quite simple task. So let's do this first. So I'm going to my design and I'm saying if my user clicks on the AC button, mouse clicked, the text of the txtio field dot set text should be set to empty string, right? So 8777. So it's clearing itself, right? Okay. The next step is whenever my user have a certain number. So the next step is whenever my user have a certain number in my text field and clicks on any operation button, the text field text would clear itself, and this number 78 should be communicated to my controller class right here. So let's do this. So go to the design, add an event handler of mouse clicked on addition button, and this is what we do. First, I will check if my user has actually entered some text into my text field. So I will get the text and call the string function is empty, which will return me true if the text is empty and false if the text is not empty. So I have added an if that states if the text field text is not empty, that means my user actually have something in my txt field. So I will say if the field text is not empty, then do this obj calc dot set number one. So set number one to whatever my user has entered into my txt.io field. But here's the problem. The txt.io field is actually returning me a string. However, my set number 1 is expecting a double. So we need to parse this string into double. So that's how we actually parse. We say double dot parse double, and it actually takes a string and returns us its equivalent double. So you can parse it right here. So what we are doing in this line of code, we are taking the text of the IO field, converting it into double, and then passing that double to our set number 1 setter function of the calculator logic class by using its object obj calculator. Right. So we have passed the number. The second thing that we need to pass is the operation that my user has selected. So I will say set opt. The operation is actually plus in this case. And the last thing that we need to do is we need to set the txt.io.set text to empty string so that my user can actually now enter the second number. So right here, this is done. Let's see if it works for the plus, and if it works, then we will replicate this line of code for other operation buttons as well. So 7, 8 plus, and yes, and I can add the next number. Okay, so it's working. So let's go copy this if and add the event handler of minus, and I will simply change the operation to minus this time. For the multiplication, I will change the operation to multiplication, and last one is for division right here. So I will do the division. Okay, till now our setup is done. So we have 8, 5 plus 36, and when we click on equal, it should actually clear this 36 and gives me a result, right? So let's do this. So whenever my user clicks on equal, mouse clicked. So I will first check if my text field text is empty or not. txt.io dot, because I need to make sure that my user has actually entered the second number required for the operation. So if the text field text is not empty, I will do obj calc dot. I will know that my user has actually entered the second number, and I will do the same thing that I did at the time of the number 1, which was we get the text and we parse it to the double dot parse double, right? We we took the text from our field, we pass the text to double parsing, and then we pass that double to our number. So now we have both numbers and operation. So I will simply say obj calc dot calculate. So my calculate function will actually calculate the operation between these two numbers and return me an something. So whatever is returned to me, I need to set that answer, set that result into my text field for my user to see. So I will do this txt.io dot set text, whatever this function is currently returning. So I will do this. I will call this function inside that. Right? Let's see if it's working. So 2 plus 2 equals 4. Wow, it's working. So if I do plus 9 equals 13, minus 3 equals 10, multiply 2 equals 20, divide 5 equals 4, divide 0 equals math error and AC for clear. Okay, so it's all working. The only thing that we are left with in our calculator is my user can only enter integers, and on point we have nothing right now. So let's do the point and then we will be done with our basic calculator implementation. So on point I will say add an event handler mouse clicked. So the very first thing that I need to see before point, my user needs to have something in the text field. So I will say if txtio dot get text dot is empty. If the txtio text field text is not empty, then txtio dot set text to txtio dot get text plus this point. But there is one problem in this, and let's see what that problem is. So if my user enters 8 and then do, so it's adding multiple points. But we know for a fact that in a mathematics, a single double have only a single point in it. So what we will do this. So now we are going to resolve that problem, and we are going to say if txtio dot get text dot contains. If my txt IO field actually contains this dot, then do not add anything. But if it does not contain this, then do add a dot in it. So let's see how it works. 8.3 point, and it's not adding another point actually. So 2, 3, and let's say plus 2 equals, and it's giving me the answer. So right, we have a complete basic calculator designed in Java with GUI with all the basic operations plus minus multiply division and doubles, and we have our automated clear button for the clearance of the screen. Hope this tutorial has helped you in understanding the GUI with the help of JSwings and communication between different packages such as view and controller. Feel free to comment down your queries or specific tutorial requests. Have a good day everyone, and do not forget to subscribe the channel. Allah Hafiz.